Hello everyone, CrystalFissure here, and today I am here to talk about Crash Bandicoot 4, if I haven't talked about it enough already, and I'm here to talk about it with someone who, like me, can't stop talking about it. It is Canadian Guy Eh.
Me and not to talk about Crash Bandicoot? Never.
Well,
Never had happened.
We've been talking, and we haven't been able to stop talking about it. So we thought, let's just maybe stream a little bit of a discussion about the game and what we've seen so far and what we're looking forward to. Because honestly, this, I don't know about you, and I think I already do know the answer, but this is something that we've been waiting for so long.
Oh, too long. We've been waiting too long for a brand spanking new Crash Bandicoot game. Some people argue that Nitro Fueled was a new game. It's like, yes, but also no.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was based off of a game, but now it was so much added that it became a new game. But this is truly from the ground up a brand new game.
And that's actually, just real quick, that's a good point, because it almost felt like the best of both worlds in that we did get to relive, CTR, but then we did get the new stuff too. So
right. Yeah, exactly.
That was a nice blend. And as well, touching on that, you and I had actually talked about this way back in like 2018. We had mentioned even before Nitro Fueled got announced. Like me and you, I remember saying this, and I think Jordan Fringe was there too. We were like, I just want new content. I just want like a new game,
Exactly. I remember that. I remember we had that little Spyro stream. It was me, you, and we were just all having that little stream when we all were talking. I remember that. And
yeah.
We were all saying in unison, new content, content, and I think it's been heard. Hopefully it's been heard completely through.
I think it has, and basically I'd say that it realistically started with Nitro Fueled with all the new tracks and returning characters, and now we have finally essentially got what we've asked for, Crash 4. So my first, question is, how did you react when you got all the information about Crash 4? It hit you. What happened?
Oh man. So when I got the information for it, at first I was only given, and this is a funny little story here. I was only given a fact sheet at first. That was it. Just a piece of paper. That was it. No, I had no pictures, no nothing. And I was like, all right. And I read it over, and I was super excited, and I was super pumped. But when I saw it all in motion in the trailer a few days before it went live, I was like, the recording that I did, I was trying to semi-contain myself a little bit, just a little. And then as soon as I ended the recording, I walked out of my room. I was holding my hands in my head and all the information of everything that I just saw. I was like, but the biggest thing that I was thinking is people are going to lose their marbles when this goes live.
Definitely.
When people see this is going to be absolutely insane. No pun intended.
Yes.
And when the biggest thing, though, the biggest shock was for me was seeing that art style, that reignited art style, that soft gradient look applied to Crash Bandicoot. That was initially a shock, and then nothing but pleasure afterwards. It was so awesome to see. And
it's one of those things where, I liked what I saw initially, like when I got given some screenshots and stuff like that, but when I saw it in motion, that's when I was sold. Like, it's one of those things where you need to see some of those things in motion to really just feel just how good it is, basically.
100%. Yeah, no, when to see the expressiveness of Crash, Coco, to see the expressiveness of all the characters, you can really see that they really made the models and rigs so that they can really squash and stretch and be able to do these really wacky, zany things, which I think really is the resemblance of Crash. I mean,
it is. I think, and as well with that point, I feel like, this could be controversial, but to me, Crash has always been a little bit more in that style than Spyro has. So for me personally, I think that if I had to pick the two styles, I think it goes with Crash Bandicoot more, dare I say.
Yeah, I would agree, because the style, the thing is that Spyro was very expressive, and they really pushed it, but they didn't over push it. They didn't over exaggerate Spyro. They had everything nice. They had the subtleties, like even if you look at some of the animations, like in Spyro 2, for example, and I'm happy that they didn't go with that for Crash Bandicoot. They went over the top. With Spyro, if you look in, my favorite animation is when Spyro flies into Glimmer into Summer Forest for the first time from Glimmer, and there's that scene where Laura is telling him what he has to do, and he's sitting there, and you see him, he takes a deep breath, and you see his eyebrows just frown a little bit.
Yeah.
That slight little lively animation, right? Like working in the animation industry beforehand, that's always something that we want to see. We want to see life, right? And to see that life, but in subtlety, it was perfect for Spyro. The little details. But Crash is not going to be little details.
Yeah.
It's going to be always over the top. Like when the Mask made that little joke of, oh, how many times have you beaten this clown, right?
Yeah.
That funny little joke, you see when he nods, he uses his whole head up and down.
Yeah.
It's not a slight nod. Everything is moving.
and I mean, when we look at that trailer and you look at the kind of the depth that was in that trailer, I think that they 100% knocked it out of the park. And because remember that there is that risk of not knocking it out of the park. Like, we are lucky that we've, I think, to be honest, like, this even applies to, in my opinion, a lot of the PlayStation 5 stuff that we got. But I felt like, the trailers in general were really, really good. And really expressive and nuanced. And Crash was just another example. Obviously, it wasn't included in that same presentation, but Crash was just yet another notch on, in my opinion, the modern gaming variation that we have right now with Crash and how expressive it was. But yeah, of course, they could have really messed up that debut, the first look.
Oh, absolutely. And the big thing, and I remembered I mentioned this, was that, and I'm mentioning this on a video that I'm going to be dropping today, and the big thing is that Toys for Bob took a big risk. Like, I look at Insane, and I feel like there was a GameSpot review, which I'm shocked that I'm quoting GameSpot.
Oh, yeah,
they
I think
said
I know
that
the one.
Yeah. GameSpot said for the Insane trilogy, saying that it's a textbook remaster or remake or however that term's become so ambiguous now. Remake, remaster from the ground up. It's whatever. So if I use it interchangeably, I apologize, because that's what the industry is doing now, right? No, it's fine. So, but I get in my comment sections all the time saying how, and then they argue with each other. But the Insane trilogy was its textbook. The way that the turtles looked in the original, in the Insane trilogy, they look the same, just in modern day, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Spyro was not the same though. Spyro reignited. Toys for Bob took a risk.
Absolutely.
Right? They took a huge risk of redesigning characters. They didn't go one-to-one like they did for Insane. They were given a lot more, I made a video about this, creative liberty. There was a lot more. And to see Toys for Bob apply that exact same style of creative liberty to Crash Bandicoot, to take that same risk, to take a leap of faith, which is something that I think the Crash franchise definitely should have gotten, because remasters can be seen as really safe and really, let's do what we know.
That's
for
right.
Toys for Bob to be like, let's take that leap. We took that leap with Spyro, and we did really good. Let's do it again with Crash now.
And if I'm having to rank them, and even though I don't, I probably consider myself more of a Spyro fan overall, but if I have to rank them based on, like, the potential payoff here, and because of the obviously what it seems to be increased development time, I think it's going to pay off better with Crash overall. I think that Reignited was great, but I think that I'm just going to go so far as to say I believe that with Crash 4 in this Toys for Bob style and this attention to detail that we'll talk about in a bit, we could be dealing with a near perfect Crash game here. I honestly say that. That I'm not someone that would just shill that kind of opinion, right? But I genuinely believe that.
I agree with that too, and because the one thing that we notice, especially with not just Toys for Bob, but Beanox as well.
Yeah, definitely.
The nickname that I gave CTR is CTR, the Crash fan service game. They were trying to put everything that they could into this for every character, reference, joke, subtleties.
Everything except for that damn Mr. Crumb, I can't believe they left out Mr. Crumb.
Oh no, not Mr.
But no, totally. I agree.
Right.
Go on.
And it's a love letter to fans, right?
It is.
To see, and the one thing that I noticed too, which was if you go on the Crash website, if you go to each individual team, like each individual game, Crash Insane, Crash CTR, and stuff like that, if you go to the bottom, the main support team, which still shocked me for Crash Bandicoot 4 is not Vicarious Visions. It's Beanox.
Yeah.
Beanox is the main support team. And to see that the amount of work that they put into CTR and the amount of love that they put into it and the amount of care where they focused in on certain characters, certain references, and they were able to get what they could. I mean, they put Megamix into the game.
Yeah, that was...
And somehow made it like a really cool character, and they expanded upon it because Megamix never had a voice really before.
No.
And then they're like, okay, what if it had like the 4 different characters' voices and all interacting with each other, and it's twitchy and weird, and they knew, at first I was like, there's no way they would do Megamix, and then they did Megamix, and then defied my expectations. Where like, okay, this character is going to be dumb. They made the character awesome.
Yeah, and implement him in a track that is just, again, almost another love letter, but in a different way.
Yes.
With just the detail of the Rustland sort of stuff. And I actually remember, I literally, the day that I saw that was the day I arrived back from my latest Japan trip. I remember getting into Cairns, which is probably as hot as it is over there for you right now. It was like 36 degrees, absolutely boiling, like literally like, 90% humidity. And I remember like being in the taxi, back to the hotel room and just looking at this new trailer and just being like, holy crap, this is crazy. And funnily enough, sort of jumping ahead a little bit, it looks like elements from Rustland are going to be in Crash 4 potentially.
Yes.
Did you notice that? Yeah.
I did, and it was a big theory of between me and friends and stuff that we were talking, and it was like, what if this was Beanox's way of almost hinting a little bit, because like you mentioned earlier, this is a much longer developed Crash Bandicoot game.
Yes,
right?
And as you said, they're the primary team.
Yeah, and you know what? This is something that, I just remembered now, a slight sidetrack, we'll get right back to this. When I went to Quebec to go to Beanox, right? Yeah. Originally, I was planned for a studio tour. Originally.
Right. Yeah, okay.
They canceled
Go on.
They canceled it. They canceled it a week and a half before. They're like, actually, we're not showing tours to anybody.
Okay.
We can't. I was only allowed in the. I was only allowed in the foyer.
Yeah.
I wasn't even allowed into the studio.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was weird. I was just like, man, they gave me a tour at Toys for Bob, and I was like, it's because Beanox was working on.
Yeah. Because you know what?
4.
I don't want to blow smoke and or anything like that, but I honestly would believe that would actually at least somewhat be the case, because they know that the type of fans that they've been getting to, like you and other people that have. Being longtime fans of the series, they know that you're going to be on the lookout for anything. I know that if I was in North America and I got an opportunity to go to like one of the studios, I would be looking at every corner, every little computer screen that I could see. Like,
absolutely.
I don't blame them for stopping you. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually had a excuse me sign. Canadian Guy Eh's here, or anyone similar, like just blocking us all.
Well, this fan base, we, because, almost going back to like the hunting days of looking for hints for Spyro coming back, and I'm saying for both Crash and Spyro, we had such an attention to detail where we would look for everything, and we'd look deep and try to hunt we figured out the project name for Spyro before it was even announced.
Falcon, right? That's right.
And
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, but kind of rewinding back a little bit to the idea that Mega Mix Mania could literally be, and if you look at Mega Mix Mania, there's a whole bunch of different references to different aspects from the Crash universe, and we know that Crash 4 is based off of a multiverse, so it's entirely possible that there literally could be a Mega Mix Mania-esque area in Crash Bandicoot 4 where it literally looks like Mega Mix Mania, or it is Mega Mix Mania, but the post-apocalyptic idea and the idea that these tracks now, these bonus tracks that we saw come out, I think that maybe there would be a base of argument to possibly go back and revisit and look at them again and see like maybe some of these tracks are references to the new game and we didn't know about it.
Yeah, like stuff like Nina's Nightmare, like stuff like that, which of course it's basically confirmed that Nina will be in the game based on the mobile stuff. I mean, you'd have to be silly to think that she's not. You know, stuff like that, you know, connecting to the mobile. And I mean, Gas Moxia, of course, it was actually Jump Button that pointed out to me, like early on, as soon as like the screenshot came out on release, you know, like the Gas Moxian face, you know, the obvious, like the snout and everything like that. Yeah. I mean, that to me is like, I mean, we're going to be on Gas Moxia, guys. Like, that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even have to presume it. We can just say it at this point, I believe, you know?
Yeah. Or like a spaceship around Gas Moxia or whatever. Gas Moxian something.
Gas Moxian adjacent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think and I really think that's a really cool idea to do that, because now we are tying in the CTR storyline. We're tying in these really, really, and fleshing it out too, because, you know, the only Gas Moxian that we've ever known is nitrous oxide. Heck, one of the bosses might be nitrous oxide.
It very well could be.
It could be.
Because people are forgetting as well is that, like, in terms of like base lore, the main CTR storyline would be the only thing that'd be like proper canon, if you get what I mean. Like the other stuff is probably up for debate, but like the story itself, I'd say what they would use is they would use the idea that yes, nitrous oxide came down, you know, he challenged them to a duel, you know, a race, and you know, that all that stuff I think you can presume is canon, you know, based on the video that you had made last week as well. So jumping to, I guess, with the trailer, we saw you know, a really wide array of levels. What's some of the ones that you're the most excited for? And then I'll tell you mine.
So the one that I am crazy hyped for is that Japanese temple.
Yes, you said my one. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Sorry,
that's exactly
well,
it.
Then I'll mention the two. So the other one, my second one, is that coral forest with the flying turtles.
Love it.
Right. So, but the Japanese temple, I think that is a really interesting idea to see Crash Bandicoot and that element, but to see the Toys for Bob spin on that, right?
Yeah.
Where it looks beautiful, and that's something that I feel like looking back at Crash Bandicoot Insane, when you looked at a level that you saw before, you're like, wow, that looks really good, that looks really pretty, that looks really like the original. And then CTR, we started to see like, okay, this is beautiful, this is really nice, this is really this looks great. And I feel like, again, that is being applied now to Crash Bandicoot, where I feel like now, and I feel like this might be a bit of a controversial opinion, but like before, I feel like Insane, all the levels were like, yeah, this is really good, this is really nice, this is great.
It's what you expect.
But it's what you expect. But now you got these vistas, these open wide vistas, with those dragons, those spirit green dragons going over the screen in this Japanese temple at nighttime with cherry blossoms. It's a Japanese fantasy.
To me as well, adding on that, it feels like that's what we would have got if the series had sort of stayed on track. Like, to me, it feels like both a Toys for Bob original idea, but also conceptually the kind of direction you'd see a more competent developer go down the track with. Because as well, obviously, as well, credit to Twinsanity, obviously we all know about the development turmoil there, but like, for example, Gone a Bit Coco is such a wacky creative level that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised of seeing something like that in this Crash 4, because it's, you know, similarly very, very creative ideas and wacky and wild sort of designs and stuff. So that's the thing that sort of excites me a lot about 4, is that when I looked at that brief look of levels, I also love the circus sort of city one as well.
Oh yeah,
that was really good.
Yeah, the
headless
that one
dudes.
looks really good too. Yeah, there's so many good things, and the one thing that I remember when Jeff Keighley announced the game, and he had the interview with Paul Yan, who was also the creative director for Spyro as well. Yeah. So one of the things that Paul Yan said, and honestly, it hit the nail right on the head. And it was something that I've never heard anybody, not even Naughty Dog, say this, but they said that Crash Bandicoot almost has a rhythm to it. It's a rhythm as you play. If you know the level and you know the patterns and stuff like that, you could borderline play the level with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
It's like, he's like, it's rhythmic, it's instrumental. And what they're doing is that they're not reinventing the wheel here. They're not. that's something that I feel like everyone's like, okay, we need to introduce this crazy new mechanic for Crash Bandicoot, and that's a big criticism for Crash Bandicoot Warped with all the vehicle levels, and then Wrath of Cortex with the even more vehicle levels and the ball and stuff like that. They're trying to, and Toys for Bob is like, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're taking it, fleshing it out, and expanding upon it.
That's right.
Because that's what made Crash.
And that's so important to do. And I know that, I'm sure you can relate, you get the and this is I'm not saying that their opinions are just necessarily wrong, but you will get the people that are very upset about 4, the very, very, very mild, I guess loud minority that are like, oh, they should be doing it all different. They should be doing, and it's like, okay, that's fair enough if that's what you are looking for. But,
right.
I don't want to be like a corporate sort of guy, but the fact is that the original games were the ones that sold the most. And if you can expand on that in a truly creative way, I think you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get creativity while also familiarity, which is hugely important.
100%.
It's hugely important. And pretending that it isn't is dumb to me. Like, you have to acknowledge that the original games were the peak.
Yeah, absolutely. And objectively, I remember I made a video that got downvoted into oblivion where I said I was basically saying that business-wise, in terms of objectivity, if we look at objectively in terms of review scores, in terms of sales, and that's the ultimate thing is sales. Yeah. In terms of review scores, sales, public opinion, and everything, the original trilogy is the best, right?
Yes.
And this is coming from someone who thinks that Twinsanity Cortex was the best written Cortex in all of the Crash series.
Yeah, love him.
Right?
Yeah.
I love Twinsanity Cortex. I'll play Twinsanity just for Cortex because the way they wrote them and everything was great. But the original trilogy was the best. And for Toys for Bob to go back and not just look at the original games, but to look at the inspiration. And I think that is the key, because it's easy to go back and play the original games and then say, okay, what can we expand upon? Yeah. They went farther back, and they were like, okay, what inspired the original Crash Bandicoot? And what they did is that they used that as their inspiration, but now without a technical limitation they had back in the day. So, like they said that the Crash Bandicoot's original, back to the designs again, Crash Bandicoot's original influence was Looney Tunes, right? So they went back, instead of going back and looking at Crash 1 and inspiring their game off of Crash 1, they went back and were like, okay, let's look at Looney Tunes, the same inspirations, and craft a new character while having the same silhouette.
100%. And
that, you get this.
You're going to get so many creative designs because of that influence. That's guaranteed, really, that we're going to be, there's going to be so many, like that trailer would have just been the absolute beginning, if anything. Even the oddness of some of the enemies in the Pirate Cove level that we've seen, like they're out there in the best kind of way, though.
Yeah, exactly. And something that I noticed too with the Pirate Cove, just something like another reference, was that the Crash ship looks a lot like the Crash ship from Crash Cove in CTR again.
Oh, right? Yeah, right.
And and also as well, we had and you pointed this out, was that you got in the music, and by the way, the music is sounding absolutely
I'm happy.
Beautiful.
I'm very happy.
Very happy. Same. You hear that Insanity Beach tone, right? The do 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 do, right? You hear that. And what's interesting is that it's taking place on a beach in a linear fashion, very much like the original Insanity Beach.
Yep.
So I remember there was a conversation we were having where, because we're hopping between multiverse, what if this is Insanity Beach in a different dimension or timeline?
And the question is that, like, I mean, this is like the guess. Is it a different time period? Is it a different dimension? Is it both?
It could be both.
Because obviously it's less, from what we see so far. If you look at sort of, let's just assume it veers off the path. Obviously the first one was a bit more jungle, and it was a little bit more, like there was like temple sort of stuff. So what if this took place like sort of after like colonization or something like that, and it became a bit more of a, or all of that was built, later. Like, it's like, it's so hard to even sort of explain it, but it's like, I'm really intrigued as to how, even if it isn't like at the Insanity Beach, what is it? What is it? Like, what if it isn't Insanity Beach? What the heck is it? you know. So
yeah, exactly.
That's the part that sort of excites me a lot. Like, and all these content drops that we're getting is like, it's just going to ask a million questions, and we're going to get the answer. We're not long away, but oh man, it's great.
The amount of possibilities is absolutely endless. And there's one other thing I also want to say about the pirate level. And I looking back, I can't believe I didn't mention this, but when we look at Insane Trilogy, we see the environment, like the environment that you start in, it feels very much that environment through the entire level.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, when you're playing through, let's say in Crash 1, let's say the Temple Fortress, right?
Yeah.
You feel like it's the same logs, it's the same characters, it's the same all throughout, and then when you got other levels, Hang 'em High, again, it's very it's all very one tone. But if you look at that pirate level, you start off on a dock on a beach, then you're on a beach, but then you start entering a forest, and by the end of the level you're in a cavern and in a cave.
Yeah.
Right? And so what my thought is, and it's the lighting is completely different, even the music is different. So what I'm wondering is that these levels aren't going to be one tone. It's going to feel like you're actually getting somewhere.
Yeah.
It feels like and you're going to be able to specify parts to people when you're talking, like how we just talked.
You know what as well though. This is something that I don't know if you've ever heard this be brought up before, and you might be surprised that it's me saying this. But do you know what game I actually believe did that well? I'm going to answer it before you even get the chance to guess. I'm just going to say this: Wrath of Cortex did that. Arguably,
they did.
Wrath of Cortex had some of my favorite level transitions, because one of the things I hated the most about 3, I mean I love 3, but like if I had to pick something I didn't like the fact that you were on the vehicle the entire level, right? That annoyed me. I was like, if I want to get off the motorbike and let me run around the road or something like that, right? Let me have fun. But it was like, that was it. But Wrath of Cortex, remember when you start in the submarine in one of the levels, in H2O, I think it was. You start in the submarine and then you actually hop out of the submarine. Like, and that was, I remember when I was a kid, I loved that. I was like, oh my God, like then we get to like travel in and we actually get to like explore. So to me, that's potentially a positive influence that they took from Wrath of Cortex and realized, hey, wait a minute, we don't have to have the vehicle in the whole level. Kind of like the jetboard as well in Crash 2.
Right, exactly. And the same thing can be applied to with the masks, like the multiple different masks, each one granting a different power, right? There's different elements, there's different inspired elements by the other Crash games. I mean, I mentioned this in a video that I'm going to be releasing hopefully this week too, is that there's also a lot of Twinsanity in there too. Yeah. Because like because there were people saying, oh, the multiverse, there was no multiverse, this was just written in. I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Yes. Remember the story of Twinsanity. The story of Twinsanity is them going to the 10th dimension, finding alternative characters. Like originally there was supposed to be good Cortex, right? Yeah. And you got Evil Crash
and all that, and
Evil Coco, right?
Cut stuff.
It was, exactly, right? It was originally these alternative characters. The characters were the same, but they were different alternative versions of that, right? And so people are saying, oh yeah, this is just something that Toys for Bob created. No, they look to the past. They look at the previous Crash games, even Twinsanity, Wrath of Cortex, and they're like, what can we pull from these games that were positive? Yeah, was there a lot of negativity sometimes surrounding these games? Absolutely. But does that mean that there were no gems? No, they found those and pulled them out and were able to integrate them into 4.
Absolutely. And also, like, they know that in spite of some of the critical reviews of the game, they know that the hardcore of the hardcore fans at least recognize what Twinsanity tried to do. Like, it's one of those things where, yes, everyone knows that it is a flawed game. Most people would know it had its development literally lost halfway through, right? Most people know that detail. So for them to be able to sort of look at that and go, yep, we know the reviews aren't as good, but there's actually some really good stuff here. They know that the fans are going to appreciate that as well. People think that these developers aren't smart, but they pay attention. they pay attention. Absolutely. Are they perfect? No, but they pay attention.
Well, they would have to, right? There's a lot of details within Wrath of Cortex and Twinsanity that are coming out in 4, and I really like that they're doing that. And there's a whole bunch of aspects to 4 that I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the fact, and the thing that I'm still shocked about is the fact of, I want to know about how they're running it at 60 frames, how the game is running. Yeah. Because Spyro had some technical problems, especially with some people, where it would chug on a PlayStation. Or
I was lucky. I was fairly lucky with that, actually.
Yeah, same with me. I had maybe one level where I remember I noticed, and that was the first time I noticed, but nothing much. But I heard a lot of people on the base Xbox Ones, the VCR ones.
See, yeah.
Theirs chugged. Some base PS4s, some of theirs chugged. And I'm looking at this footage, and in the trailer and in the gameplay, it's 60 frames, and it's not that extrapolated weird 60 frames. It's 60. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, how are they doing this? And what are they recording this on? Is this a base? Is this a pro? Is this the next gen? What is this?
Yeah, because I guess I think with that, I'm gonna have to chalk it up to. It's the end of the PS4's, let's just say PS4, Xbox, it's the end of the development cycle, right? This is it. We're going to get some games for the next year or so, but this is really the end of the PS4. And I think that by now, developers have mastered the system in the best way. And obviously the Pro's been out for long enough as well. So my guess is that if I'm guessing, I would assume it will be Pro only, but maybe not, you never know. But I'm assuming, let's just assume it's Pro. And then also again that development time, because if you don't know the story about Enter the Dragonfly for most of development was running at 60 back on the PS2, but then they messed up big time. All this stuff was lost. It was a complete disaster, as you know. Literally the definition of a disaster. And then when it finally shipped, it was barely going at 30. So I think having this extra development time really is going to allow Toys for Bob and Beanox, who are probably helping out, who will be helping out. Sorry. I think it's going to be 60, and I think it's going to be pretty good 60 because of that extra time they've had.
Absolutely. And also, too, if you think about it, there's usually a way that Activision works. Like, we've heard rumors. We've never been confirmed what the development time for Spyro Reignited was. Yeah. But we were told it was relatively short.
It was, That's
obvious, what we've heard. Yeah, that's what we've heard, that the development time was relatively short, but they were able to produce such an amazing game in such a short period of time. And the reason why is because if you ever sit through the credits of Spyro, it's almost as long as the game.
It really is.
They really, and Activision has that power to be able to turn around and be like, okay, let's have literally all hands on deck. They had credits for Sledgehammer Games. They had Toys for Bob, Vicarious Visions, Beanox. I remember there was a studio I follow, Airborne Studios. They had the credits was crazy. Now imagine take that workforce, and instead of that short period of time, and now make
you've got double the time, probably, assuming roughly. Maybe let's just assume double. I think that it's and you're not developing 3 separate games. It's like one big cohesive unit. I'm sure there's other things that go into multiple games, and in Spyro's case, multiple ways of controlling Spyro. Like you've got with Spyro, Spyro 1 is different to 2 and 3. That's a fact. So having one cohesive unit game in one disc, one system or whatever, however I'm trying to explain it, I think that's that's got to be a difference maker. I'm sure.
I think so too.
Yeah, so no, I'm really hoping for 60. I've got a good feeling, the fact we've seen so much of it in 60, and also we've got some of the Tony Hawk stuff from Vicarious Visions. That's all been in 60 as well. So it's exciting, and it is the future of gaming, and it is here. I think finally, in a more permanent capacity. It's taken its time.
It's finally here, and I feel like the console makers have finally sorted a few things out. And one last thing that I wanted to quickly throw in before we move on to the Purple Dragon bit.
Yes.
That there was the wording of it is fairly obvious, saying that there's going to be more than just Crash, Coco, and Cortex as playable characters.
Yes, I did hear that.
I heard that. Now, there was something that someone pointed out to me, and you know what? it's not that far-fetched of an idea. Did you see that leaked concept art with the different characters on the corners?
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. That was unreal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we see Dingodile. We see the not the original Entropy. That's not the original Entropy. That's a different one. And Tana. The funny thing is that Cortex is on there, which we know is playable. But you look at the bottom left corner. You look at Dingodile. Someone pointed out that almost looks like a double jump.
Yeah.
The way he's using his...
Reminds me of like Super Mario Sunshine or something, like, yeah.
I'm wondering, do you think that we're going to be able to play as Dingodile? Like a playable levels of Dingodile?
I think there's a definite possibility in that. Is it going to be like 20 levels of Dingodile? No. Could it be in the similar way to Hero's Tale, where you had a few hunter sections, stuff like that? Yes, I could see him being part of even maybe perhaps part of the Cortex stuff. Like potentially they could be part of the same thing. So obviously you've got Crash and Coco as like the primary platform level sort of thing. Then you've got Cortex and potentially Dingodile, potentially Nina, potentially who knows. Right.
Who knows? Yeah.
And then obviously Torna as well, which has become deservedly so a big fan favorite. And I know your theory about the Nitro squad potentially being pirates.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
I thought that'd be cool.
So I mean, Torna as a playable character, people will froth that. Like that. The reaction's going to be insane.
Absolutely.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, and something that I thought was really interesting is that we saw the double jump on the bottom left corner.
Yeah.
And something that I pointed out, I said, what would be really cool for Tana is that you see her, she's swinging on a rope. What would be cool for her is that if she almost had not like a slingshot, but like she could throw a rope and attach it and swing.
Yeah.
Jump from like ring to ring almost, or be able to attack, like swing and attack while man, there's so much possibility.
There is, and I think fans have been wanting the opportunity to play as these obviously we can play as Cortex in Twinsanity, but to play as Cortex in this capacity is just so exciting. But then also, the potential for even more than that, is just fascinating. And you got to remember,
absolutely,
that the way that they revealed everything with Insane Trilogy, I remember it was actually my unlisted leaf. It was actually Ando who accidentally leaked this. But he was like the first one to put the video up of Coco being playable. Do you remember that? That was him.
You know what? So the problem was with the Insane Trilogy was at the time I was working at the animation studio.
Oh,
and
yes.
I had no life. I had no life outside.
Yeah.
I was working in the animation studio. Basically, it would be on a Saturday. I would sit down and catch up on all my news.
Yeah.
So if there was anything that leaked, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I think he ended up being able to take it down before. Well, I think he got to like 140,000 views or something like that. And I remember like everyone being like, "Oh, look, it's Coco." And the funny thing is that he never even like acknowledged it. He just played it as if nothing happened. And people were like, "Hey, wait a minute, did he just switch characters?" Like, I mean, it was just, it was incredible. Shout out to you, Unlisted Leaf. But that's the thing. The thing about the Coco playability, that was literally only revealed at E3. So that's and then the game obviously came out like June 29, June 30 or whatever it was. So the thing about anything that we are getting for Crash 4, do not think that this is it. That's all I can really say there is that whatever we've got, it's not all. Put it that way.
It's the tip of the iceberg. What we know so far is the tip of the iceberg.
For sure, and that's by design. They want to keep the momentum and sort of the just slowly giving more and more details. It's a smart marketing strategy, and it really relies as well on like YouTube people and personalities and fans, of course, the fans, to really spread that the word of the game. You don't have to spend. Obviously, they're spending a lot of money. Like you've seen the whole marketing thing. How like they've put ads for it on YouTube. It's got like 18 million. That's a fantastic thing, and that's awesome. Is. But then also, the passionate fans on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, Reddit, wherever, that is what is really driving, I think, the Crash 4 big time. Almost more than all the other games, actually.
Absolutely, and I think that is legitimately Activision's marketing strategy, is letting the fans run with it. It's like, here's some content, you guys have fun. And
that's
the
right.
fans go crazy with it.
And as well, like, one thing, this is like slightly inside sort of reference stuff, but it's okay saying this. But they literally, like, Activision Australia sent me they sent me this Tony Hawk's footage, right? You know, like B-roll of some of the new levels. And literally, I asked them, I said, hey, is this getting shared around to, like, you know, traditional media? And she was like, yep, it's all, you know, going to be going around. And literally a week has gone by, and I think I've seen the footage, like, in one place. Like, these people, these companies get this amazing footage, right? And they do nothing with it. Like, it blows my mind.
My gosh.
Like, and that's why I think that they're trusting people like us a lot more, is because we're actually going to, like, talk about it, you know? Like, dare I say.
Exactly.
It was fascinating.
Oh, man. I have a story.
Yeah.
I have a story. So, the way that you put that, so there was a website. I can't remember what it was. Tech Radar. Was it Tech Radar, or was it the Washington? It was some journalistic site that you know you probably have read before, but you don't remember.
Yeah.
And I remember back during the Spyro days, they had gotten exclusive screenshots, and this was the reveal of Bamboo Terrace.
Yes.
And there was a bunch of these footage, a bunch of these images that they had. They also had the reveal for Autumn Plains too. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But here was the thing: when they uploaded to the website, the images were just down-res to garbage.
Yeah.
They were bad. So I contacted my PR rep. I was like, hey, can I get these images just in full quality? Just, you know, like, I'm not asking for anything. And they said, yeah, sure. But what they said is, we're going to send you the press release that we sent them. I was like, okay, cool. That's whatever. It's probably going to be a zip file. And it was. And probably maybe like a little fact sheet of, you know, what to talk about. And I opened it up, and there was a .mp4 file in there. And I was like,
what's that?
And I double clicked it, and I opened it, and it was 10 seconds of Aquaria Towers.
Yeah, I remember that. Seeing that footage.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is Aquaria Towers. Like,
and
they had the old Aquaria.
Didn't you, like, I think you tacked that onto a video or something like that. I think
I made a video.
And I think Teal Game Master ended up, like, using it as well and everything like that. And I remember seeing that, being like, oh my god.
Yeah.
How random.
But I was the first one to upload.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting. I was one of the first ones to upload, because I remember people were DMing me asking me if they could use it for credit.
Yeah.
And if they credited me. And I was sitting there, and I'm looking back to that journalistic site, or that journalist site, and I'm like, you got brand new level footage that no one has seen before. Excuse me. And you don't use it.
Yeah.
You didn't even use it. You're like,
It's
whatever,
just,
throw it away.
it's different motivations. And I think, you know what, if they want to be like that, that's cool. But I think that's why that people are now seeing the value in just, you know, and just straight up providing it to as many people as possible, and let the content itself do the talking. And yes, it is through the, you know, some of the creators and stuff like that boosts that. But at the end of the day, like, people are going to see this, and you may as well give it out to as many people as possible and share it to everyone and all that kind of stuff. And it's just naturally really taken off. Like Crash 4, it definitely has the potential to be bigger than Insane, I think.
Absolutely.
So
I do agree.
And as well, just one other thing, Crash 4. What do you think about the mask abilities? What are you thinking some of the other ones are going to be doing?
So you got the gravity one. The gravity one is going to create some really interesting aspects.
Yeah,
I think
puzzles and stuff.
There's going to be. I got a feeling that there's going to be like, because they were saying how they're doing the level of difficulty, they're doing it the same way as Crash Bandicoot 1, where the way you're progressing through the levels.
Oof,
so it starts off real easy, but then it gets harder and harder and harder as you go, right?
Yeah.
And they know how to ramp the difficulty so that some levels will be easier than the original trilogy, and then other levels will be much harder. I'm just picturing a sequence of just like flipping, like you jump and then mid-flip you switch to gravity, and then you got only like a gap, and I think that's going to be for a lot of fun.
With like a nitro crate in the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that,
the time mask is fairly, I wouldn't say not original, but it's, we've seen it before in many other games.
Yeah.
It's a platformer, right? But I do like the idea of being able to turn on the time mask and be able to jump on nitro crates before they explode.
That's a really creative. Yeah, we haven't seen that yet, but that's a really creative sort of thing. I'm curious to see how those puzzles are going to work.
Yeah, I'm super hyped for that. I'm just picturing like the Quicksilver scene where he's just running through and everything is, that's kind of like how it's kind of pictured. But the other two, so I think the blue one could be for like a super speed, because if you look on his head, you can see he's got like almost like the speed boost ramp arrows that you see from CTR.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I'm thinking to myself, can you imagine if Crash puts that on and just lightning speed, but now you're running really quickly, but now you gotta time your jumps perfectly, because if you don't time it right, you're gonna screw up.
Remember him being in that sort of like that boss chase scene thing that reminded me a lot again of Wrath of Cortex, the third boss, Rumble in the Rocks or whatever. Not Rumble in the Rocks. It was like, I can't remember what it was called, but not Droid Void. I can't remember. But yeah, it was the third boss, and he's running away from you, right? It reminded me of that, and the blue mask was there with you. So maybe there is some kind of ability tied to that, in for chase sequences, for getting away from enemies quicker or something like that. Obviously, of course, also, just low key, the return of the chase sequence, which is fantastic, and with the T-Rex.
Fantastic.
But yeah.
And it also makes sense too, because if it's a power of speed, he likes to run away because he's scared. So he's able to get away fast. So the personality trait makes sense. But then we got that last one, that last purple mask.
Very mysterious.
And it was, and I was thinking to myself, I was just like, man, what could that be? So I was thinking of like the quantum idea. So you got speed, you got space, and you got time. And I thought, you know what's missing? You're missing chaos.
Yeah,
you're missing destruction. You're missing, and I thought that there would be a really cool story element where maybe the final mask to get is that mask, but it doesn't want to unite because it likes chaos. And as we know, that there's a rip in the multiverse that's kind of causing chaos. So why would a mask of chaos? It would be an interesting little story tidbit where maybe it wants to it would rather ally itself with Cortex instead of the other
that's
masks.
right, exactly. Like obviously Cortex, we've seen very, very little of the gameplay there, so maybe that is more in line, and we do potentially have that mask helping out Cortex and not Crash and Coco and whoever. So that's a good point, and it would be fair that way, because then otherwise it's like Crash gets all the masks, but then what about, and maybe it helps Crash too, but maybe it helps both, basically, in order to create more
whatever
chaos,
will cause the most causes the most chaos, right? And then maybe by the end they explain to him, if everything is destroyed, there can't be any chaos because there's nothing to destroy. And then he's like, I guess I better.
And we're just writing the story now, and there we
go, right? You
know what, guys, if you want to hire us for story development, look, I'll uproot my whole life and I'll move over there. Let's as well, but we'll wrap up and talk about as well, just briefly, because this is something that literally when we started talking about it, this is instantly what we went to. This is just typical Spyro fans making Crash about Spyro, typical, right? But
typical.
But obviously, it being Toys for Bob was a surprise. A welcome one to make that reference, but the writing, or should I say the photos, were literally on the wall, weren't they? Remember? Like,
they were.
Literally.
They were. We thought that they were, because I used that as an evidence piece to say that the aesthetic of Crash 4 was going to be like reignited.
Yeah.
And I was right.
Yeah.
I was right. But I didn't go all the way. I still thought that Vicarious was going to be developing.
No, I don't think anyone went all the way.
Yeah.
Like, no way. I definitely didn't. I saw the art and thought, okay, cool, they're helping them out with this kind of interesting style. But I did not think, I 100% admit, I did not think they were primary developers. No way.
Yeah, neither did I. And I thought, in my mind, the original theory was, and I thought the theory was sound, was that I was like, okay, we know that Vicarious Visions, whatever project they're working on, is in the Unreal Engine. Yeah. And I'm looking over here and I'm seeing Toys for Bob working on Crash Bandicoot and I'm thinking they just did Spyro and Unreal. Maybe they're helping them with the art direction, kind of teaching Vicarious Visions the steps of the Unreal Engine and helping with the art style to kind of show them what it's like. And then when it's time for their own thing, they'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
But no, we were wrong.
Yeah, very much so. And so yeah, we saw that with Toys for Bob, and that means obviously Toys for Bob are they'll be working on that. And then we have Vicarious Visions, who, again, this is another clue, because obviously Tony Hawk was revealed before Crash. Actually, I remember when we saw it being Vicarious Visions, I did get a little bit suspicious. I was like, okay, are they working on 2 games at once? Maybe. But I did start to sort of, my mind sort of start to move a little bit. But then obviously we are now forgetting the third developer of the main 3 Crash and Spyro sort of Splash development team, and that is Beanox.
Yes.
And what does that? I wonder what they're working on. I wonder what they're working.
We might be getting a Beanox. We might be getting a Beanox Spyro.
I mean, obviously we have literally no insider knowledge about that, but like
nothing.
But it just from the power of deduction with these 2 studios, I think it makes sense as well from a perspective of, obviously there was so much to bite off with Reignited, arguably, realistically almost too much, considering there's just 3 games with all these different characters, all these different levels. You think Crash is a big undertaking, Spyro is even bigger. But Beanox having the opportunity potentially to work on just a singular Spyro game, we know how much they care about lore. We know how much they care about like attention to detail with CTR. So to me, I think it's a match made in heaven if we potentially get Beanox and Spyro.
Yeah, and you know what? There were some people who were concerned about it. They said, "Oh, Toys for Bob not working on Spyro. Oh no, some people were nervous." But I want to remind people that out of the 3 games that came out from the Splash team, which is you got your Insane, Reignited, and CTR. In terms of objectivity, the best one was CTR because it so far has the most sales out of all of them in the same
Oh, really?
Most sales out of all of them within the time length. Like, of course, Insane has more sales because it came out like 4 years ago.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Or 3 years. Oh my gosh, but like within that same same time span, CTR also had the biggest opening weekend of any Crash Bandicoot title ever. Right? And Metacritic score has the highest Metacritic score, and it won a Bloody Game Award.
Yeah, it did, right? and that's a big deal, because I feel like that was a long time coming. Like a game finally like Spyro and Crash getting recognized in that way. Obviously, awards are not everything to everyone, but no, that's a great point. That was a huge notch on their hat, like positively.
Exactly. Now, if Beanox can do that, and it also won at the time for E3, it won one of the best in shows, best in racing, best in it won an accolade of awards, CTR. And though Crash, Insane, and Spyro were great, and they had their own little awards as well on like some side stuff, none of the accolades that they ever got there came close to what CTR got. Yeah. And so the thing is that in terms of objectivity, not even a subjective, I'm not looking at a subjective opinion, because I'm looking at this as objectively as possible with my own bias set aside. Yeah. CTR had the best score out of all of them.
Yeah, it did.
So if we handed Spyro to the studio that made the best quote-unquote game out of all 3, I have no worries. I have no concerns. I have full confidence in Beanox to be able to make a really good Spyro game.
Yeah, it's both that, it's the attention to detail, the lore, and it's also the scale. Is that the reality is that they do not have to worry about creating 100 levels. And by the way, guys, I don't believe that Crash 4 is going to have 100 levels. By the way, not in the way that you think about it. Not in the way that 100 individual level, like.
Yeah,
you know what
I mean? I don't think so either. I think they're including like the Cortex levels. They're including and I think the Cortex levels are going to be recycles from a level that's already been done. So it won't be 100% unique. It'll have the same assets but shaped a bit differently. So you know.
Hey, I mean, but
yeah,
Crash is used to that, though. I mean, we had levels with like 4 different variations of them, so I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And you know what? It'll probably be different time of day too. Don't consider that.
Exactly.
Lighting wise, you could be getting a different look entirely because it's like before, you know, Crash gets there, sort of thing. But yeah, no. As I was saying as well, yeah, just the fact that they're probably not going to be, you know, doing 100. There will never be a single Spyro game with 100 levels, right? So, obviously, Vinox were working on. They were obviously working on the what's it called, like the Grand Prix. However, I doubt that would have taken the absolute entirety of the team. Like, I'm sure that if they are theoretically working on Spyro, development would have started the second that it was like went gold. Like realistically, it probably you know, would have been started. So again, we're potentially looking at a potential, you know, almost 2-year development cycle for Spyro the Dragon, which is literal music to my ears. Like, oh my god.
And I'm almost certain that Toys for Bob will also be the supporting role on
exactly.
that game as well.
People are forgetting the fact that these teams really clearly work very closely together.
Yes.
It's not like if Paul Yan had like some like ridiculously great idea, you know, a concept or, you know, guys to work on it, and he goes and contacts, is it Thomas Wilson? Is that his name? The main?
Yeah, Thomas Wilson,
yeah. And he's like, hey man, you should do this. It's not like Thomas is gonna go away. You know, like I'm sure they're on speaking terms. Let's just say. So you know,
and, which is very. But which is very interesting. Last point is that the fact that Sanzaru was the ones that did the third game, which was and arguably, and actually I would say objectively, it was the most underpowered Spyro in the Reignited trilogy. It was Sanzaru's third game, right? It had glitches, buggy. There was some really obvious redesign, like not redesigns, but like obvious things that they didn't use. Like, for example, the one that drives me nuts is in Frozen Altars. They're all just recolors of Zoe. When in literally Spyro 2, we literally see the scene where they're grabbing the orbs and getting them away from Ripto. We see 7 different variations of fairies.
Models,
it's like, it's like you could use those. You could use those.
And that just comes from I believe they were the most time affected studio as well. So, you know, they got, you know, they got some unfair brunt too. You know, like it was tough for them. But yeah, no, you're right though. Yeah, 3 was probably objectively, and it also had some of the most game-breaking ones. Like I had a friend that literally lost all of her save file because of something in Lost Fleet.
Exactly.
So,
right.
You know,
but now everything is staying internal now between Beanox and Toys for Bob. So that's right. And Vicarious Visions probably. So that's going to create a really good game.
Yeah. No, I am genuinely so excited. Like I remember again, just going back to like what I said at the start, how me and you before Nitro Fuel was, you know, announced, we heard rumblings and we were like, oh, another remaster, you know. And now having looked at everything and Nitro Fueled and how it's all gone, I can honestly say it has been worth the wait. That's my thing.
Yes.
Like
100%.
Time's relative, you know. Time is a flat circle, and you know we've been going. You know, it hasn't felt like that long anymore. You know, like in terms of at least not the 12 years has felt long, but the distance between like Insane, Reignited, and Nitro Fueled, like it's been like a decent amount of time between each that we're ready. We're finally ready.
Yeah. I'm super hyped, and I can't wait. And you know what? It's really good to be a Crash and Spyro fan right now. Activision's investing money and time to both of these projects.
I mean, it's a dream come true for me, for my channel. You know, like it just starting in 2009. You know, and like never knowing if we're gonna get anything again. You know. Yeah,
and then here we are years later, right? And you know what? To see all this content come out, to see all this stuff being a thing, and it's really, really nice to see. I'm very excited. It's great to be a Crash and Spyro fan, but not just a Crash fan and not just a Spyro fan, but a Crash and Spyro fan. To be a fan of both right now.
Yeah,
you're getting a game that you love almost every year, and the hype is maximum.
The hype is maximum, and as well, I think it is having some compound little residual effects on some other series revivals as well. I think that out of everything, you know, if you're a platformer fan in general now, I looked at the PS5, the reveals and some of the stuff we got, and, you know, the return of Ratchet and the Sackboy game now in 3D and stuff like that. I think that the new golden age is sort of, it's coming. And it's exciting, and I think that, you know, if everyone's excited for Crash and Spyro, I think that they're not going to be the last ones to be revived. Put it that way.
No, I think we got more coming. I think that we're going to see a lot more coming, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, things like Rayman, you know, I'm very underappreciated series.
Ubisoft, please, Ubisoft, please bring back Rayman.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's a huge one for me. My personal one is Gex. I know that's like very hit and miss for people.
Didn't play that one yet.
But I love Gex because of it's very much every level is a reference to like a film or a TV show or concept or something like that.
Okay.
So there's even like the first boss in Gex 3 is literally a Stone Cold Steve Austin parody, right? So like it's honestly we should do a stream sometime and I'll show you Gex. It's a good time. But, you know, for example, stuff like that, and Gex is actually owned by Square Enix, so you know, you never know what's coming up then. And yeah, I think that, long story short, as we end this, I think we're ending it on a very much a high, just thinking about the industry itself. You know, for games that we're interested in, you know.
Absolutely.
Typically.
I can't wait. There's a few hopes I have too. Do you ever play a PS1 game called Jumping Flash?
Oh yes, I love the music in that game. Yeah.
The jumping, I would like. It'd be cool to see Jumping Flash come back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It was weird, but it was cool. It'd be cool.
It's a really interesting concept. Yeah. No, I mean this. PS1 is just I'm a PS1 guy, and I forever will be, and I'm taking that to my grave. Okay. But what was that?
I said to the death.
Oh, yes, exactly. Speaking of, I'm deathly tired. It's my bedtime, my friend. Okay, I'm literally hanging up now. I'm going to bed. I'm getting some good Z's. But yes, Canadian Guy, it's been an absolute pleasure. We have to do this again sometime soon. Because we've always got lots to say, and it's really fun having you on the channel as well, and just we're both really passionate about this, and I think I think you can see that radiating off us. So, you know,
this was supposed to be like 20 minutes, and we're over an hour.
Yeah, I knew. You have to. You know, it's us, okay? Like,
lots to say.
Yeah, but it's been a pleasure, and we will speak very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Take care, and we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.